Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The extended 500-plus programme will come into effect at the beginning of July. People with only one child will also receive the 500 zloty social benefit. Nearly 7 million Polish children will benefit from the programme.
Since July 1st, people can file a motion online in the traditional way since August 1st. Parents who file a motion at the beginning of July will get the money later this month. Filing a motion by the end of August guarantees a payout by October 31st.
There is an expression born with a silver spoon in one's mouth. We're given the monthly social benefit and we believe that it would be an impulse for a better life, for the improvement of education. Now we have the holidays, so the money will come in handy.
So far, only families who have more than one child receive the social benefit. Now 6.8 million children will get this money. According to the parents, there are many expenses to pay for. I will file a motion, why shouldn't I? I have many expenses.
I don't know what I'm going to buy, but definitely things for the children.
Of course I will file a motion. I buy diapers and many other things for children, and they are very expensive. The motions can be filed online on the Ministry of Families or on the Social Insurance Institution's website. Motions can also be filed in the municipality you live in or by post.
The Court of Justice of the European Union ruled today that the provisions of the law for lowering the retirement age of the judges of the Supreme Court are not consistent with EU law. The verdict has no practical meaning, however, because the Polish government withdrew from the new regulations challenged by the European Commission. As a result, the charges are moot, but the Commission decided to continue with the lawsuit anyway.
The bill lowering the retirement age of Supreme Court judges in Poland from 67 years old for both genders to 60 and 65 years old for female and male judges respectively was ruled to be in violation of EU regulations. This despite the fact that the regular retirement age in Poland has been set by another bill to exactly the same ages of 60 and 65 for women and men respectively. The Polish constitution calls for the retirement age for Supreme Court judges to be set by the parliament by way of a regular bill, and that is exactly what was done in July 2017. The judges raised an uproar about this, called themselves a special caste of people, and filed a complaint with the Court of Justice of the European Union. Polish authorities in turn retracted the changes, but the EU court still made a final judgment on the original law change, which is now moot. Each ruling like this one is a signal for the legislators which regulations are in line with the EU directives and which ones are not. On the other hand, if Law and Justice retracted from the changes, it means that they felt they are not complying with them.
The European Commission and the Court of Justice, two of the EU institutions, want to push to expand their powers, despite the fact that such authority does not appear to be valid and in their jurisdictions. This appears to be appropriation of powers which belong to each of the countries of the Union. This ruling is very dangerous for the member countries, as it gives the individual rights of a member country to the EU.
Because the regulations in question are not longer in the bill, Poland is not subject to any fines for violating EU rules. The court ruled that the Polish side has to pay the court costs of the proceedings.
The Polish Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, took part in the official celebrations of the 35th anniversary of the Tri-City Division of the organisation Fighting Solidarity. During the celebrations, the head of the Polish government stressed that without the anti-communist movement and its leaders, there would be no free Poland today.
I myself feel like I'm a child of the Fighting Solidarity, like a small little screw in this wonderful machine you build, especially those older than me by a few years, by a generation. They gave up everything they could, offered their careers, for the good of our homeland. There would be no free Poland today if not for you. Glory to the heroes, glory to you who sit here, and glory to those who are sadly no longer with us, like Edek Frankiewicz. I firmly believe that all of you greatly helped us on our journey towards being free, and it is thanks to you that we can live in a much happier Poland. That the vision of Poland which the Fighting Solidarity had come true.
Brazil's Conservative President Jair Bolsonaro has announced that he is considering running for a second term in office. The announcement came during the world's largest gathering of evangelicals, an event in Sao Paulo called March for Jesus.
During his presidential campaign, Bolsonaro had stated that he wasn't interested in a second term in office. However, as his reforms, particularly regarding the pension system, have been blocked by a centrist faction in parliament, Bolsonaro stated during the March for Jesus that if the people want it, he would run for re-election. If there is a meaningful political reform, I'll throw out the possibility of re-election. If, however, there is no meaningful political reform and if the people want it, we'll be there to continue. Brazil above everything. God above everyone. Meanwhile, Bolsonaro's Minister of Justice Sergio Moro told the press that the private conversations he had with prosecutors in relation to the car wash corruption investigation that led to a prison sentence for the socialist ex-president Luis da Silva were all legal.
Não tem nada que esconder.
While carrying out my functions as a judge in the car wash investigation, I always acted within the law.
Sensacionalismo que está sendo criado.
The conversations were leaked by the US journalist Glenn Greenwald, but recent information released in the mysterious Peacock scandal show that Greenwald paid a Russian hacker to break into Moro's phone.
A minha opinião em particular.
My personal opinion, even as the facts are still being investigated and the conclusion depends on the results of that investigation, is that an organized criminal group exists that is behind these attacks.
Por trás desses ataques.
Meanwhile, millions of Bolsonaro supporters are preparing to launch a new wave of protest marches in order to pressure Parliament to approve Bolsonaro's reforms, indicating that the tapes leaked by Greenwald seem to not have caused a dip in the support for the president.
The good weather on the Mediterranean Sea over the last few days has resulted in another round of migrant boats and dinghies setting off for Europe from the shores of North Africa and Turkey. Meanwhile, a report released by the European Asylum Support Office reveals that the number of asylum applications in the EU in the first 5 months of 2019 is rising again after a decrease in recent years.
The director of the European Asylum Support Office, Nina Grigori, presented her report on the situation on asylum seekers in the EU today. According to the report, the number of new asylum applications in the EU amounted to 280,000 in the first 5 months of 2019, an increase of 11% compared to the same period last year.
More than 280,000 applications have been registered overall in the EU plus countries, but by 11% comparisons to the same periods last year, they've of course increased.
She also revealed that the number of Afghan nationals arriving remains high, but there is also a new trend of asylum seekers from Latin America heading for Europe.
While the number of Syrians applying for international protection decreased considerably compared to the same periods in 2018, Afghan and Venezuela applications were far most numerous. Of particular relevance in 2019 was the increase in asylum trends for nationals of many Latin American countries beyond Venezuela. For instance, Colombian nationals lodged 3 times as many applications as in 2018.
The report showing an increase in asylum seekers was released at the same time as political tensions over asylum seekers crossing the Mediterranean Sea is flaring up again. Italian Minister of the Interior Matteo Salvini is embroiled in a row with the Netherlands, arguing that the country should take in the 50 migrants on board the Dutch NGO vessel Sea-Watch 3, that he has forbidden to dock in the Italian island Lampedusa. A small but vocal minority of the island's residents is protesting his decision. Due to the presence of the Sea-Watch 3 ship 15 miles from Lampedusa with 43 people on board who are denied a safe port, we decided we could not go on with our daily lives thinking about these people who are denied a safe port and shelter. So we chose to show them our solidarity by sleeping on the ground with thermal blankets, as they are certainly doing on the deck of the ship, until they're allowed to have a real bed to sleep in. Meanwhile, in the last week, both Malta and Lampedusa have received a large number of dinghies with dozens of migrants on board each one. The most controversial incident concerned a fishing ship caught on video transferring more than 80 migrants to a smaller ship off the coast of Lampedusa. The smugglers aboard the mothership, a Tunisian and 6 Egyptians, then tried to set off for Libya but were intercepted by the Italian Coast Guard. The EU still hasn't reached a common agreement on a new European asylum law to replace the current Dublin regulation. The idea of EU migrant relocation quotas is opposed by the Visegrad Group, and the recent arrivals in Italy and Malta are not likely to change their position on the issue.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. It's followed by the business, culture, history, and then finally the travel.